Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now for today's video, we're going to be welcoming back Anthony Power. Yesterday we got a ton of production updates from the Bitcoin mining companies, including Stronghold, BitDigital, Wulf, SATO, and of course Marathon. So we want to talk about those in today's video, but before we do, please take a second, hit the like button, you guys. It's a big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. And let us know in the comment section below what you thought about December production results, the increased transaction fees, and which one of these miners is your top pick for 2024. Now with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right, Anthony Power is back. We've got a big agenda today. A ton of the miners have released their December production results. This is year end for most of these miners as well, or fiscal year end, you guys. So big numbers, big discussion today. We're going to kick it off. We've got 5 different companies that we're going to be covering. We're going to kick it off with Stronghold Digital, you guys. This is a smaller miner that's been receiving a lot of attention. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on them, Anthony, and their numbers that they put out for the month of December.
Yeah, Stronghold's not a miner I've covered in my analysis in the last 2.5 years, but I have kept a watchful eye on their updates, and they've been growing quite well. I actually did an article on Stronghold probably about 18 months ago, which highlighted what they're doing with the waste from the coal fields, and how they were utilizing that to create energy and restoring the land back to greenfield, and done some amazing things. So it was very positive article. Maybe we can drop a link to the article in the comments below, so that people can have a read about that. But it was a good piece article for Bitcoin, and highlighting what Bitcoin is doing for the environment, and not all the sort of like the FUD that comes out from certain aspects of the space. But yeah, going back to their update for December, they mined 207 Bitcoin, and they also, as part of their revenue stream, they can sell energy, and they also received about $400,000 in energy revenue. So if we look at that from a total perspective, their income for December was 8.5 million, which was its highest in the month for the year of 2023, and we're going to see that theme for a lot of miners in December, because we talked about this in a previous podcast. The amount of fees that were achieved by miners for the majority of days in December was significantly higher. So, you know, miners were getting effectively close to 20% more fees than they would have done in a normal month, and that fees equates to Bitcoin. So the fact that the Bitcoin difficulty ratio went up by 6%, which means that miners would generally mine 6% less Bitcoin on an even playing field. The price action and the fees meant that these miners have been doing really well, and Stronghold showed that they had, even with the difficulty, they had a higher production in December than they did in the previous month. And so, yeah, so it's good. I think we've already talked about their recent purchases of miners. So they purchased another 5,000 Bitcoin miners back in December for about 8.5 million, and that gives them an extra 600 petahash. So I believe their last reported petahash was around 4 exahash. So that gives them 4.6 exahash. And that's moving them in, into that mid tier of miners there. So, certainly moving away from the lower end of the mine market, and moving into that mid tier market. Debt's still an issue for Stronghold, but with the price action of Bitcoin at the moment, that's probably alleviating the position. Yeah, if the Bitcoin price is now, as we go through the halving, it puts them in a stronger case to have a little bit more runway. But yeah, good update from Stronghold.
Yeah, most definitely. It reminds me of the investment quote, a rising sea lifts all ships or lifts all boats. But it's great to see the balance sheet stability and strength that the increasing Bitcoin price has on these companies. Hopefully we get some big ETF approval tomorrow. I've got my fingers crossed here, Anthony. And really cool to see some of these smaller miners kind of graduating into that mid-tier. Don't be worried, you guys. We're going to talk about some of the big boys, Marathon specifically, at the end of the video, so stay tuned. This is not just focused on the mid-tier miners, but really great update from Stronghold Digital. SDIG is the ticker symbol on that one. And actually, Anthony, where I've been seeing a lot of comments and buy recommendations and stuff on Stronghold Digital is in some of the Patreon comments. So I know you launched your Patreon recently this week. We introduced it yesterday on the podcast. We were able to double your active members in a single day. So really exciting stuff. But maybe just throw in a quick word about the Patreon for people who missed out yesterday.
Yeah, so I've been providing this analysis on social media now for about nearly 3 years, and all been provided, effectively free of charge. Now, to maintain that level of provision, I've got to sort of pay the bills and, give me enough resources to do more than what I'm doing at the moment. So that's, to try and drive more fundamental analysis. I don't tend to do the technical side of things, the future graphs and all that, but I do the fundamental analysis. And what people have seen in the past will be what they see in the future, but a lot more. And there'll be a lot more interviews with CEOs where we can get questions to those and find out what's going on with the companies. So there'll be a lot more aspects for the Patreon itself. So yeah, I mean, we're literally 48 hours in. I think we've got over 50 members already, and let's see that grow and have a good community in there. But there'll be a lot of access to people ahead of things going out publicly. So that's one of the benefits of the Patreon. Certain data will be for the Patreon before it even gets released in any format outside of the Patreon. So they're getting in advance of what other people are seeing. So that might help them with their due diligence, give them a little bit of a head start of where to look. Again, it's not financial advice, but if you're starting to look into Bitcoin mining, what I provide is a first port of call, and then you take that further and do some more due diligence. But yeah, looking forward to seeing that membership.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm in there, and hopefully we can get you up over 100 members here. Anthony was telling me the price of gas in the UK, you guys, and if you knew the price of gas there, you'd want to give him a follow on the Patreon, because it's absolutely crazy. Now, enough with that, Anthony. Moving along here, we've got Bit Digital. BTBT is the ticker. Again, December production. This is another one of those miners that's moving up the ranks month after month. What did we see from Bit Digital?
So Bit Digital produced a great update for December. I mean, every aspect of their update was very positive. So we advised in the last few podcasts where they'd started to receive their servers for their high performance computing service that they're going to provide, and those have been received in Iceland. They've already received 192 servers, 64 already operational, and the rest are going to be active by the middle of January itself. So that's going to get their HPC. They're already starting to receive revenues in advance of that service. That's great news for Bit Digital to have the first big customer in place of all the Bitcoin miners who got HPC. From a Bitcoin mining perspective, they increased their hash rate by 12% during the month, and we talked about the number of machines, the 2,500 machines that were being brought in, and those machines have been brought in December, plugged in, so that increased the hash rate by 12%. Their actual production, their Bitcoin mining production, was at 169.5 for the month, and that was an increase of 19% on the amount produced in November. And if we look at what they've hodled a significant amount of their production for December, and they've only sold 22% of what they produce. So their Bitcoin hodl now is at 642.6 Bitcoin. That's an increase of 26% on the previous month. And if we look at that in terms of value, so not only has the Bitcoin hodl increased, but the price of Bitcoin increased during December, the hodl value is a 41% increase in what they had at the end of November. So that's a significant increase. So as the halving approaches in less than 15 weeks, the company's total treasury, including crypto, has increased to to $85 million. And that's an increase of 21% on the November figure. So every metric for them, really positive for December. Looking really good. And they're on track to raise their hash rate this year further again. So, good numbers in, growth strategy, high performance computing, good update.
Yeah, very good update. We had Sam Tabar, the CEO, on not too long ago. I got to say, I was really impressed. He asked me why we hadn't invited him on earlier to the channel. Bit Digital was one of the last companies where we didn't have a CEO interview on file, and I would definitely encourage everyone to go check that out. Sam said he'll be back throughout the year, so we look forward to those chats as well. Now, moving along here, next up is TeraWulf. This one, very similar to Marathon, has almost developed a cult following. I've coined the word Wolf Pack, Anthony. That's my new hashtag. So everyone who's a Wolf fan, let's see the emojis down in the comment section. This is a really fun company to follow and watch. Again, we've had Paul and the team on previously to the channel. What was your take on Wolf this month?
Yeah, Wolf, again, another good update. Mined 334 Bitcoin. That's an average of over 10 a day. And, one thing they do, better than most is they've got a really good power and energy cost. And, they can produce that Bitcoin at about 11,000 or just over $11,000 a coin. So that's, as we're going into that halving, they've got a good energy rate going into the halving there, because we know come April, the cost to mine a Bitcoin will literally double overnight. So during the year 2023, they've mined a total of 3,401 Bitcoin, and they're not stopping there. They've just completed the build of Building 3 and operational, and they're going to deploy 18,500 S19J XP miners in February 2024. And that'll grow their hash rate from the current 5 exahash to a total of 7.9 exahash. And they've also, at the same time, they're starting the construction on Building 4. And when Building 4 is complete and filled with miners, that should take the hash rate up to that magic double-digit 10 exahash a second, putting them certainly in that sort of top tier of miners. And we're using that 10 exahash as a sort of like a benchmark now for those miners wanting to break into that top tier with the likes of Riot, the likes of Marathon, the likes of CleanSpark, the likes of Core Scientific, and a number of miners who've got orders in to get over that 10 exahash is growing as each month goes by. Another good point to remember about Wulf was during the month of December, they were able to repay around $14 million of debt using the extra cash generated in Q4 with the Bitcoin price rising. So that will please shareholders, because that was the one area of concern for the company. They did have in excess of 100 million of debt on the balance sheet, and most of it was in short-term debt. So a significant amount required to be repaid, within the next 52 weeks at the last 10Q, which was as at September the 30th. They've also highlighted that they'll pay an additional 11 million in January 2024. So that's 25 million reducing their debt. So that's a good point. That's, shareholders will be pleased to see that announcement as well. And they've also announced that they're expanding the high performance computer project supporting generative AI in 2024. So that's another miner that's looking to move into HPC. And, that number's growing now. I mean, initially, it was really, the likes of Hive Digital and Hut 8, and both of those companies had significant numbers of GPUs. So it was a natural progression into that sort of business model. But then we've seen the likes of Iris, we've seen Bit Digital, now we're seeing Wulf. And, it won't be long before some of the other miners realize that maybe the potential margins to earn in the HPC space, where there isn't the requirement for the level of energy used as it is for Bitcoin mining, but the margins are really good. And if you look back over your podcast with the CEO and the chairman of Hive Digital, that podcast will explain the levels of revenues and margins that this type of technology can generate, and they are significant when compared to the sort of 8 or 10 cents per terahash that Bitcoin mining currently achieves. So yeah, good update from TeraWulf.
Yeah, I was going to say we're covering Hive and Riot tomorrow. We just had too many miners come out this week with production results. Great to see them all coming out early, though. I was really happy with that. So we'll talk about that, but you're exactly right, Anthony. The Hive interview really explains some of the benefits of the margin associated with HPC. So I'd encourage you guys to take a look there. The other thing I wanted to mention, we've got SATO coming up. Interesting fact about SATO or SATO technology. The name comes from Satoshi, and I don't know if it was just me who missed that one or not, but interesting fact of the day. So SATO technology, another one that came out with results here, very encouraging. If it feels like this video is a very upbeat, positive video, it's because it is. Bitcoin price is moving, network difficulty is increasing, but we're seeing those transaction fees offset or more than offset. And generally the share price of a lot of these miners has been doing really good. So this definitely is a more bullish focused video. And with that being said, why don't you walk us through the SATO Technologies update as well?
Yeah, again, another consistent update from SATO Technology. They are one of the smaller miners that I have in my table of analysis, but being small, it's easy to look at what they do. And what they do is they just do things in a good way. So, they've only got literally just over 500 petahash, so less than half an exahash. And we should compare to the likes of Marathon, who have probably got 50 times that level of computer power in their facilities. But then you look at what SATO produced. So they produced 38 Bitcoin in the month of December. Their revenues they produced were at 1.6 million, and that's a 28% increase on the previous month. They managed to hodl, so they've got a hodl of 40. They sold 41 in the month of December to help them pay for their operational costs. And they've got, they produced 71.8 Bitcoin per exahash in that sort of metric. And at the moment, that's, looking at what the miners have released their data, that's in the top 3 of miners up to now. So again, small miner, but do everything really well. From a treasury perspective, their cash and equivalents and their hodl equals just under $3.5 million. And that's a 19% increase on the previous month. So again, they're benefiting from the increase in Bitcoin price, increase in fees generated from mining at the moment. And, we've seen even some of the early days in January, some of those fees are still a little bit higher than normal. So again, January could potentially be another good month. The Bitcoin price today sort of got back above the 44,000 level. So that would be good for miners. Again, it's at the higher end of where it's been in the last sort of 12 months. So yeah, good update from SATO.
Great. And another company benefiting from the higher fees, we saved it for last, Anthony, Marathon. So this is for all the Mara pigs out there, the Mara fan club. Phenomenal month for phenomenal month for Marathon, and put up some huge numbers in excess of 1,800 Bitcoin mined. So Anthony, let's take her home here and talk about Marathon.
Yeah, so, we're talking significantly breaking their Bitcoin mining records. So 1,853 Bitcoin in total produced in December. And if we look at what they produced for the year, 12,852, so just shy of 13,000 Bitcoin for the year. They've increased their operational hash rate to 22.4 exahash. They've actually got 24.7 exahash energized in December. But because they weren't operating at 100% in their facilities, their average operating hash rate is 22.4. So they've lost about just over 2.3 exahash in potential downtime. And most of that was at the Garden City site, where they were achieving around about 80% And Garden City, if we remember, from November, has only been recently energized and switched on there. So there might be some initial tweaks going on there, some testing potentially. So, January itself could be a really good month. It looks like their joint venture in Abu Dhabi, they're now showing 1.4 exahash, which is their 20% of the stake in that joint venture in Abu Dhabi. So it looks like that's up and running at full capacity. And they're also operating in South America as well, and a project there that's just, literally just started recently. In terms of Bitcoin sold, they sold just over 704 Bitcoin in a month, which meant they could take their HODL to a total of 15,174 Bitcoin. And if we convert that into a value as at the end of December, the value of that Bitcoin HODL is just short of $650 million. The company also announced that they've got approximately 357 million in cash and cash equivalents. So if we add that to the HODL, you're looking at a figure of 998.5 million in cash equivalents and Bitcoin HODL as at December 31. And as we go through to the Bitcoin halving, that puts them in an extremely strong position. Also from the balance sheet, we know that they were able to reduce their debt, which was originally about 700 million down to about 300 million. And so the balance sheet strengthened then, but this sort of level of treasury is not compared with any other miner. This puts them out in a really, really strong position to take advantage of any potential market transactions going forward. So we haven't had a big order in recent months from Marathon. We have had orders from some of their peers. So we've had massive orders from Riot platforms. We've had big orders from CleanSpark, Iris Energy, Bitfarms, TeraWulf. And we might see in this early new year now something along the lines of Marathon putting in an order. They've certainly got the finances to do that, and they are really geared up to get to where they want to be. And I think their next target is 30 exahash. So that's another just under another 5 exahash to reach that target. And looking at what they've done in the last few months is get to that target of 23.3 in the US, which was a target of probably 12 months ago. Let's be honest, it was a previous target, and they had some issues with sites, but those have been rectified now. They probably learned a lot of lessons from those, and 2024 to get to their next level and further on. I don't expect them to stop at 30 exahash, not when their peers are already looking at further on than that. So wait for the update to come out from Marathon. It will be a big update. They've got a massive cash reserve there to fund that growth.
Yeah, a big month for Marathon, $1 billion on the balance sheet. Never hurt anyone going into a time of uncertainty or the halving. And I too expect there could be some announcements in the near future there. But a phenomenal month for Marathon. And a really interesting point you bring up, Anthony, when we compare them to some of the smaller miners like SATO, for example. There's pluses and minuses to both, right? When you've got a smaller operation, it's a lot easier to control and keep eyes over everything. However, you may have some trouble with balance sheet strength, stuff like that. On the other side of things, Marathon, phenomenal balance sheet, but I know firsthand from working in a big company, the more facilities, operations, production, people involved, it just becomes more complex. And I think they're doing a really good job of maintaining and managing that massive beast of a company that Marathon's become. I know Fred is becoming somewhat of a celebrity now on CNBC the other day. He's been on the channel too, and as the CEO and leader of the largest publicly traded Bitcoin mining company in the world. Going into 2024, I think he's going to receive a lot of attention. So shout out to Marathon for all of you who follow and invest in that company. Let us know in the comment section below what you thought of not only Marathon's results, but all of the other companies we talked about today. Tomorrow should be a massive event either way for the Bitcoin mining community. That's the pending ETF deadline. Expect to see a decision one way or another. So let us know your thoughts there. If you're still watching, you guys, hopefully you found some value. Make sure you hit the like button. Follow the channel or subscribe. It's free to do. And in addition, make sure you jump into Anthony's Patreon because there's a lot of value, a lot of good discussion in there as well. Anthony, thanks for your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Harry Bryce.